Give me some space, guys. Give me some space. Morning, Raspberry Mojito Girl, Sky Lee, Sarah Elliott, Deborah Holdsworth, Jan, Carly K, you know. It's a good name. Deborah Holdsworth, Della Nixon, Lior, Sarah, Rachel J. Loving your work, Lior. Loving your work. You like my t-shirt, guys? Give me some space. In so many ways is that appropriate. Like, give me space. Just step back and give me some space. But give me some space, because I want to go into space. Give me some space so I can feel it. Just give me some space. Salsa Trish, Sally Jenkins, Sharon Goodis, Anita Burke. Do you ever wake up some of those mornings where my lungs, if you have to read with your glasses, if you have to use glasses to read, does that make you short-sighted or long-sighted? I can't remember. Obviously I don't struggle with long-sightedness. I can see things at great distances, tiny things. But this morning, do you ever wake up some mornings where just your eyes are a bit fuzzier than normal? Hi Nicola S, Brenda McGee, Hazel Malburn, Short, Jill Lister, how are you? It's Friday, which brings with it all sorts of sort of strange little things, doesn't it, Friday? It's like the end of a week, it's the beginning of a weekend, it's the last formal day to get work done, though our work doesn't really stop on a Friday, it starts on a Friday big time throughout the weekend. Thank God it's Friday, Bethan Williams. Mark, how funny was Nadia saying Amy Childs? What I love about Nads is she says stuff she doesn't know with such certainty that she can carry a room. If she doesn't know something, but she says with absolute vehemence, the entire room will run with her. Andrea Crash, morning. Andrea Crash, hope you're well. Sky Elise, she insisted she was right. That's unlike her. Sarah Parsons, I had a very good chat with a mental health nurse yesterday and he's going to start work with me at last. That's brilliant news. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant news. Helen Groves, good morning. Mandy Falloon, Salsa Trish, the circle was hilarious. My husband is like that in quizzes, that's why we never win. And a kite. Yeah, you've got to be careful. Got to be careful that you're not too, you know, poor old Kay. I think Kay had a bit of a go at her afterwards. Amy Childs. I think Nadia was thinking of Adrian Childs to give her a sort of get out of jail card. I think she was thinking of Adrian Childs. Deborah Holdsworth, Mark, what do you think about the Oxford AstraZeneca jab being linked to blood clots? Really worried as I put. I think you don't need to worry at all. I think when you look at the numbers of the people that they're talking about in Denmark, you know, there are some adverse reactions to all types of vaccines. I personally, it's just a personal thing. I mean, I don't see it. The government doesn't see it. Other people using AstraZeneca don't see it as a fundamental problem. Skyley's, have you been vlogging whilst you've been watching? Funnily enough, not really, because Nads has been live on the Instagram, on Instagram with Kay. So I haven't really, but we've shot a few bits and bobs around it. It's very funny though, isn't it? I mean, I have to confess, the show itself is all right, but I love the way the two of them are just not being nudged into too much action. They're kicking back, they're sitting back, they're just chilling, they're just doing their thing. I don't know, I like them. I tell you what I do really like is the guy from Towie and the guy from Made in Chelsea. They really make me laugh. I like their companionship. I think they'd make quite a good travelogue together, don't you? Keep them together and go around the world with them when we can go around the world, which is any minute. Watch Dr. John Campbell, says Faith Goodman, about blood clots. He does not see it as significant or worrying. No. The Darries, morning Mark, first time on a live. Welcome the Darries. I hope I'm not a crushing disappointment for you. Obviously Nadia is at loose this morning. I will get a knock from the police, from the post office, from the postman. So if I have to dash over there, just sing to yourselves. Someone somewhere, Sam and Pete are surprisingly good TV. They are, aren't they? Emma Atkins, hi Mark, just let you know, if you were thinking of going to Clapham Common at 6 on Saturday, put a post up for the organiser. Yes, there's a vigil that's being planned on Clapham Common, but the police have said that any of the organisers, if they go ahead with it, to reclaim the streets essentially for, you know, women, which we're going to talk about, the huge upsurge, quite rightly so, in outrage, upset and distress that women have, that essentially their freedoms are curtailed on a daily, minute by minute basis. Yes, the police have said that they will be fined, and the organisers of the vigil on Clapham Common are trying to raise money to challenge this prevention, basically, to gather. I can understand what they mean. I mean, you know, all gatherings over a certain size have to observe COVID restrictions, have to do hazard assessments and all that kind of stuff. But I think regardless of whether it goes ahead and regardless of whether it's allowed to go ahead, the sentiment behind it is the same and the feeling behind it is fixed. I mean, I just saw a story just land just then, which was just talking about the fact that in Wales, someone's recommended the possibility of a curfew for men. I mean, that's where we're at in terms of talking about, I mean, you know, I, on my Instagram, I shared a post or a description by my eldest of how she's tried, you know, just ordinary scenarios in which she's gone about her life and her, essentially, her rights, her civil rights have been transgressed by male behaviour around her. And I just placed my head in my hands. You just place your head in your hands. You just get so embarrassed as a man. You just, you know, and I was sharing actually with NADIA by text this morning about how it's one of the reasons I struggle with a lot of male company. Not all, and this is, you know, there are many, many exceptions to this rule. But, you know, even in the most well-meaning, well, I think we're going to do a How to Stay Married about it because, you know, even within parts of masculine society, that you would not expect sort of, you know, archaic and kind of sexist attitudes. They're there. And obviously, as a father to 4 daughters, it's soul destroying. I mean, that's the fact of it. It's soul destroying because what do you do if we have such an endemic problem in men's attitudes to women? What do you actually do? You know, how do you answer someone? How do you answer a child or a friend or someone who says, "I want to be able to walk from the park to..." Why do we work from the assumption of that you shouldn't rather than you should, and then try and deal with the problem, you know, that's preventing women from being able to walk, go out. Is the sound okay? So let me see. Yeah, no, the sound's okay. Sorry, someone said they're struggling with sound. Verena Horner, must be your end, I'm afraid. It's all good this end. It's a curious one with the cop and the Sarah and the Everard story, is that they're still interrogating and they're still, you know, investigating, and the family is still putting out sort of requests for details about her disappearance. And yet, of course, the biggest story that's kind of that's in the news today and all over the front pages of every newspaper is, you know, why didn't the police pick up on this guy's indecent exposure incident? And what's particularly worrying about this, I mean, I don't know whether this information has now been sort of drawn back out of the public sphere. You know, it was known that he was at work that day. If he was if he was a policeman who has a gun, I'd have thought he has to have that gun locked up at the end of the day. So if he had been at work, if he was in work, and yet there was an indecent exposure case or claim against him, apparently it happened in a restaurant or a fast food restaurant somewhere in South London. Again, this is all just horribly close to home. Do you know what I mean? You know, how did that happen? How did that happen? And Brenda McGee says protecting their mates. Now, further to this, yesterday, I don't know if anyone saw, the suspect was taken to hospital due to a head injury. What do you all think happened there? Do you think it was a head injury self-induced? Do you think it was a head injury potentially caused by someone, Jade Louisa, beaten up by police? The really important thing to say here is this must be so frustrating for those honourable police officers who we always say are going out every night putting their life at risk. And then you have something like this. Skylease, you think it might be self-induced. Carly, you think he was beaten up. Outlandish Creations, it's just so awful. I was reading about it last night. It should be safe to walk around. I walked back from work a few weekends ago at 2 a.m. and it seems silly now. He's in Wandsworth Police Station. Yeah, I mean, the dilemma we have, Outlandish Creations, is as a dad, I say to all my girls about what they wear, where they go, who they're going to be with. I say all of that. And I say all of that not because I think that should be the solution. They should be free to walk around at any time of night wearing whatever they want, doing whatever they want. It doesn't, men have to take some responsibility. I don't understand why a lot of women also claim, oh yeah, but men can't, or yeah, but men don't, or, are men animals at a certain point and not humans? Sue Smith, Mark, please address the fact that women attack as well. This drives me nuts. Of course women attack, but that's not what we're talking about today. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And you have to look at the balance of probability. And that's just not what we're talking about today. We'll talk about it another day. Outlandish Creations, you're in a position with your daughters where you feel like saying, you put all these things in place. And then, of course, at certain points, they turn around and say, why? And you have to say to them, no, this is not, obviously you're right to not want to have to do this, and you're right to not have to do this. But as a parent, you have to equip your kids with a sense of reality. It's so frustrating. It said this morning it happened when in his cell alone, Jan. But do we believe that? Do we believe that? Hazel Mahon, it's a scary world we live in. Now, look, the other important thing to say is nothing has got more dangerous since the Sarah Everard story than before it. You're right, Xander, we need re-education and harsher penalties for offenders. You're absolutely right. And we need the police to follow up on this stuff. And that's my biggest concern about this is, has a blind eye been turned to something here? And given our own experiences, okay, I'm not going to go into the micro details of it, but we have had and we have witnessed a man masturbating repeatedly in a window from his front of his house, and we called the police and they told us there was nothing that they could do. I tried to get footage to kind of prove this case, and they said that was more illegal than the man standing in his window doing that. What kind of screwed up world are we in that someone can stand in their window, essentially exposing themselves to countless people at bus stops? We've witnessed it, we've seen it, and this is the bit that's unforgivable, is that a male police officer with two other female police officers who didn't say a word, the male police officer tried to question the veracity of what we saw, as if we weren't in full possession of our own fucking consciousness. That was, for us, that was a really, just a slight, very slight example of how, when you do go to the authorities, the inference isn't, they didn't even go knock on a door. We could point the house out to them, give them the number. They didn't go to the door. They queried whether we, as adults and our children, had actually seen it. How does that work? How does that work? Yeah, male dominance is what it is. Why was the male police officer talking and the two female police officers weren't? Why were we made to feel like we were in the wrong? And that reminded me of just how important it is, the training and the emphasis and the concentration on educating the police force when it comes to dealing with sexual assault, rape, and these matters. Very easy and very, very, very nuanced way in which, well, it wasn't even nuanced, it was a very quick way in which we were made to feel like we were the kind of issue. So it's important to say nothing has changed since the Sarah Everard story sadly has happened. But what has changed is that people are sick and tired. Women are sick and tired. Lots of men are sick and tired. Fathers are sick and tired. Boyfriends are sick and tired. And, you know, whilst we look at all of these various categories of trying to readjust the balance in society, whether it be, you know, Black Lives Matter, transgender rights and what have you, it strikes me as strange that sometimes it's really hard to get the gender one back on the front burner. Because I suppose it feels too insurmountable. It feels too insurmountable, perhaps. Emma Staple, we're just taught to stay quiet and accept it. Men know that and use it to their advantage. I don't know how this can change. Emma Staple, you're absolutely right. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that in citizenship lessons at schools, rather than simply talking about, though you do need to talk about things like democracy and all that kind of stuff, you actually talk about gender respect. You talk about behaviour. You talk about how you conduct yourself in society. You can't guarantee that's going to go out of the classroom if they go home. If you go home, Rita M, Mark, if you are on a public property, you have every right to video. It's not against the law. He was in his living room. He still does it. We've contacted who was it who recommended? We had to contact the neighbourhood. There's the neighbourhood watch. What's it called? Crime Stoppers or whatever it's called. You have to get 6 complaints in there. It's so diabolical. It's diabolical. It's diabolical. That's the law, not the police's fault. Of course it is. Exposing in a window. You have every right as a police officer to go over and knock on the door. It's, you know, and so regardless of it's the law, even if they can't get in, even if the law is working against the police, you can see how systemically, systemically, the whole scenario is tilted against women. So when I hear someone say, what about the women who attack? Sorry, just for 6 seconds, just park that on a side burner. It's not the point of the story. It's not the priority. It's not what's most common. It's not what, as a father, I'm thinking about with my daughters. I'm not thinking about the women they're going to come into contact with. I'm not even thinking about the men that are going to attack them. And this is why I've put catcalling in the title. I'm talking about the constant low-level right that men feel they have to harass, distract, wave at my daughter and ask her to take her headphones out. Hang on a minute. She doesn't know you. Don't talk to her. Do not talk to her. That low-level, passive-aggressive standing at a bus stop, I've seen it happen. And I lean in and go, she doesn't want to talk to you. But as a man saying that to another man, you are running the risk of getting hurt. And there was another interesting point that Izzy mentioned. You're out at a club, someone gropes you, but you're with a bunch of friends who don't want you to say something because the threat of violence potentially to the boys in the group is too extreme. It's a form of being held hostage in plain view. It's like being held hostage in plain sight. All women have experienced this. You're absolutely right, Donna Muir, and I presume you're not suggesting that because all women have experienced this, they should carry on experiencing this, because I do think there is a sort of conspiracy of silence amongst some, not all, amongst some older generation women who say this is as it's always been. This is as it is. This is as it always will be, which is demotivating and actually deeply disrespectful to not just women, but men. What I don't understand is how we are quick as men and women to think of that side of the man as uncontrollable. Thank you, Xander. I said exactly that to the police. So when this guy escalates from doing what he's doing in a window, to there being an actual case in the neighbourhood, will we have a registered complaint? No, that we won't. So we will be contacting them again, and we keep contacting Crime Stoppers. We have to keep logging it. That's why we keep logging when it happens and where it happens and who it happens to and all that kind of stuff. It's it's you know, regardless of whether that's what all the police can do, and regardless of whether it's the individual policeman's fault, it was just interesting that tonally, I'm a sharp enough guy to sit there, and we have a lot of respect for our local police forces because they have to work bloody overtime in this part of London. And I remember sitting there and I looked at him and I thought, I can't believe what I'm actually witnessing. I can't actually believe the very, and he didn't say anything that was sort of saying you're wrong or you, but you know, to ask, do you know what one looks like? To ask, I thought, hang on a minute. Anyway. So the Sarah Everard case ignites debate. That's the big topic. And yeah, absolutely. If you're thinking of joining the Clapham Common Vigil, be careful because you don't want to be sitting with a great big whopping fine on you. Keep looking on social media and the press. I do know they're appealing against it. They're arguing that they want a socially distanced, peaceful vigil. And I just want us to all just question whether catcalling and that sort of, you know, the whistling from vans and, you know, some of the things my youngest daughters heard from men in vans, men of my age, is utterly unforgivable. And, you know, you think of what those men must be like and you think, my God, they must be subhuman. They must be driven by the most basest of motivations. You can probably tell it's infuriating. It's infuriating, it's distressing, and the only thing we can do, there was the Labour politician who listed all the names of people who've died. Now, the danger with this, as you know, some comments that have come in here, the danger with this is to run towards the extremities, and not actually look to the most common experience of this. And the most common experience of this is very, very, very hard to manage. And I you know, I'm a big one for finding solutions and resolving things. I mean, you know, if you go into things like curfews and things like that, I don't understand. Extreme pornography is probably responsible for it, Chrissy. You're absolutely right. Things like a sort of dehumanizing of relationships, a dehumanizing of the female body, the free availability of it and stuff like that. And, you know, a balancing act needs to be struck here. I already had a situation this morning in a Facebook group with two male friends where I had to correct them. A work colleague of one of them didn't look like in the pictures how we talk matters. Francesca Bastos, absolutely. You're made out to be lying if you say something, Nicola S. We have to teach our young boys to treat women respectfully. I mean, that's the problem. The problem is that it's about how we teach our boys. How we teach our boys. But it's also about what we teach our girls not to tolerate. Do you know what I mean? You know, we work overtime, not even in a sort of violent sexual way, but in all ways, how to encourage young girls to be forceful enough to be able to enact boundaries and self-protection. Shell CMB. My wife was sexually harassed in work years ago. Her boss told her she'd sort it out and to keep quiet. Found out years later that wife's boss employed the guy illegally and didn't want to get into trouble. Terrible. The more a perpetrator gets away with it, it builds their confidence and they do more grotesque crimes, Jane Bentley. And also there's a frisson. There's a frisson. And that's our concern with the guy local to us. There's a frisson that as it goes along and it's not met with resistance, it will just escalate. It will just escalate. And so we have this guy, this policeman. I use that term sort of disparagingly because he doesn't deserve the name. Who's clearly, or the suggestion is that he was done for indecent exposure. Apply broken windows theory. What's that, Mel W? Surely these people doing these things have sisters. Well, I know, Xander. I mean, I get to the point where I can't even comprehend how these people can't comprehend. You know, it's like, how can... Ellen, curfews will not work. I was sexually violated twice in broad daylight when a teenager. Never told anyone because what would get done? Eventually, I convinced myself I made it out to be worse than it was. And therein lies the problem. And I would go so far as to say that when people like my nan, from a well-meaning perspective, would say, oh, but look, you know, lovey, this has been going on since time immemorial. I've been, she herself has fallen victim. Women, I don't blame women for saying that, but there's a sort of, we have just societally said it's too big a problem. It's just the way it is. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. I think the government should instigate some kind of huge social kind of investigation or huge social sort of inquiry into, oh, sorry, I've just lost you. Social inquiry some sort of inquiry into why and how these things, can be corrected or made better. Curfews will not work. No, that's right. Samil Kayazim. It happens all the time. I was groped on the tube when I was younger. Also, me and my sister were attacked walking home. We were jumped on from a man in a parked car. It's awful. Joe McKenna, the bit you're missing is that these men think women like being catcalled. That doesn't help. What doesn't help is that what we do is smile and get away rather than tell them to fuck off because we don't want to escalate. You're absolutely right, Joe McKenna. You're absolutely right. And yet that is a sort of defense mechanism, isn't it? It's a defense mechanism to sort of hold at arm's length. Francisca Bastos, so true, building girls' confidence is already such a difficult thing. We need to build their confidence to know what not to tolerate, absolutely. Camille Kayazam, the police asked us what we did to encourage it. Diane Lukeman, it will take something horrible or extreme to happen before they can do something. Xander, chivalry is the way forward again, yeah. Sarah Clemmy, we as women all have so many examples in our lifetime of sexual harassment or attacks. My friend lectures on laddish behaviour and it's on the increase. The parents have a big role. I've been approached by lewd men while out with my children. It's sickening, tutti fruit. I know. Broken Windows Theory, Mel W. What Giuliani did in NYC, punish the smallest of crimes very harshly so the criminals won't go on to commit worse crimes. Yeah, it was a kind of zero tolerance policy, wasn't it? Jackie Villino, why should my sons be subject to a curfew when they are decent, law-abiding, hard-working, decent men? Totally agree. There would be so many men in such a situation, so many decent men who would be caught up in that, absolutely. Social responsibility, Sylvie Livingston needs to be taught at school and at home from a young age. Faith Goodman, look up the OWL police communication system. Will do, to see if it's in our area, I will. Mark, there's an app on phones called The Scream. It plays in the background, and if you let out a panic scream, it sends a message. Self-defense classes is another way forward. And the women who dismiss low-level harassment like catcalls as acceptable. I agree. There should be a national week like Anti-Bullying Week where all schools spend a week educating pupils on this issue. Entirely agree. Kathy O, it's often too risky to confront these evil people. So true, Zoe Shah, but if you shout back, you're classed as a hormonal crazy woman. It's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible. It's terrible. It's like one's caught in a sort of loop. One's caught in a sort of feedback loop that you can't get out of. Oh, sorry, it makes me so cross. It makes me so cross. Schools have an anti-bullying week. How about an anti-harassment week? Why don't we campaign for an anti-sexual harassment week? Let's do it. And obviously you don't want it to be a week, you want it to be a year. Catch-22, Zoe Shaw, absolutely. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that just for a moment. So obviously, just after our coffee moaning yesterday, hit the thumbs up, guys, if you're enjoying our chat or if you're enjoying contributing to it. I mean, it's not particularly an enjoyable subject, is it? It's a frustrating subject, but hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying being here. It's good to see your comments. They're always so meaningful. They're always so articulate. They're always on the money. You often throw up contrary thoughts that make you rethink things. Katie Johnson, good morning, Martin, and everyone else. Sorry I'm late, that's okay. Deborah Holsworth, so worrying, as many a time me and my friends have been for nights out at the Grand in Clapham, don't feel safe now. Well, you know, again, Deborah Holsworth, I mean, the point we'd like to make here, nothing has got any more dangerous. And I think these events are so extraordinarily rare in terms of, you know, what's happened to Sarah Everard. But the problem with it is, you know, I think what people are feeling keenly is the developmental move from low-level indecent, well, it's not low-level, is it? But low-level harassment to indecent exposure to this. There seems to be a connection just with this guy, and I think it's just triggered people, hasn't it? It's triggered so many people into thinking, hang on a minute, this was 9:30 on a Wednesday night, coming home from work. You know, she'd done all the right things. She was phoning us. She was on the phone. She, you know, all the things that we tell people to do. What about government ads teaching men about treating women? Margaret Ann MacArthur. What is to be lost in doing that? What is lost to be doing that? Anyway, so there we go. That's exactly what I want to know, John Dobbins. How was this guy able to work with having an indecent exposure case? That's I mean, presumably, I mean, I hope, you know, journalists aren't just going to passively report this. I hope they're going to interrogate what's going on in this. So anyway, Prince William's terse reply. Sorry, I was just reading a long comment there from MM, is it? D. Marchant. Can we consider the family member Meghan and Harry outed having a private conversation in the privacy of their own home should be afforded the same standard of privacy MM demanded for letter to father? Okay, so this is obviously the rolling drama of Prince Harry. Did anyone see, straight after Coffee Moaning yesterday, I think Prince William was asked, are you a racist family? And he sort of, you know, within royal terms, he strongly denied it. And I think, you know, I had a huge amount of, you know, on the one hand, we've talked a lot about how we understand it from Harry and Meghan, the feeling, the need to be able to say something. But imagine if, you know, as William, I mean, you felt that having perhaps been told by the royal family not to say anything, he obviously felt he had to. And what do you think of that? What did you feel when William said that? Do you think good on William, Sandy, good on William, felt sorry for Prince William, Richard Coulter? I think I did too. It's clearly not him. Let's assume quite safely it's not him that said the racist comment. But I suppose, you know, family, Gabrielle, royal or not, family arguments always hurt the most, especially when they're played out to the entire world. William must feel deeply hurt by his brother. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, for me, that was the headline that came from it. We can't get into the rights and wrongs. We don't know. We don't know the culpabilities, the veracity of stories. We know the Mail is kind of now in the process of sort of demonstrating how Meghan Markle went on 16 holidays here, there and everywhere. So there's clearly a lot of nuance and there's a lot of different ways of reading what Meghan Markle was saying. Maybe Meghan Markle did go on 16 holidays, but maybe they were in a particular period of time and there was another period of time where she felt particularly stressed. You know, you can't, you know, we will never know. We'll never get into that. But I think what I did feel yesterday when I saw the clips shortly after Coffee Moaning yesterday was someone hurt and frustrated and sort of just saying something because he felt that something had to be said in defence of the royal family. And I think he did. Brendan McGee, I think he did carry it with class. I mean, I think it's deeply upsetting that these two brothers are, you know, where they're at. I mean, he did say, I mean, if I was a younger brother, I'd be very worried about my older brother saying, yes, I haven't spoken to him, but I will be. Do you know what I mean? And I sort of wondered whether, you know, Meghan and Harry have been watching the fallout from this, and I wonder if they're reflecting at all on whether they feel there was an alternative route forward. You know, I mean, I don't know whether they're frustrated or saddened themselves by the way it's spun out. You know, Piers Morgan obviously left ITV. He's doubled down on his opinions regarding the interview. And, you know, I'd like to stress that I do genuinely think you have to be entitled to have alternative opinions on interviews. But he crossed the line when he started to question the veracity or validity of her mental health claims. And it felt like it was I felt a concerted sort of campaign of harassment in many regards. Melissa Anser, you think it's him, to be honest, really? Oh, you can, Skyleys, you can see in Harry's body language throughout the interview how it's affected him and Meghan. James Martin, hi from Dubai, Nads, you look a bit different today and your voice is deeper. Yeah, no, absolutely. We've cut my hair as well. Piers did the same with Denise Welsh. Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely has an idea that mental health is just some sort of fictionalized construct that people just trot out in a meaningless fashion. Too soon, they may regret it in time. Ray here, Piers was obsessed with Meghan. Yeah, I mean, I would almost go so far as to say that Piers' obsession with Meghan was verging in its own way on a sort of his own, I felt like he was having his own mental health crisis at times. So I think before he says that mental health issues don't exist, he should maybe just watch a sort of, I don't know, a compilation of his best moments as he attacked Meghan. Miss Dunn, I disagree, Mark. What about? Said so many things. Which bit do you disagree with? There are three sides to every story, Lucy Heaney. There's my truth, and then there's, as Xander said yesterday, the truth, which actually no one has ownership of. And that's the odd thing. Whatever the truth is, no one really has ownership of that because it's always passing through the eyes and opinions of someone. So, guys, that's the news. Tell us your thoughts. There's a members live happening tonight, probably at 7 o'clock. Confessions of a Modern Parent has landed this morning. We did it on how going back to school isn't necessarily brilliant news to every child and every parent in the nation. There's a lot of people running around all screaming with excitement about how brilliant it is to get rid of their kids and stop homeschooling and all that kind of malarkey. But actually, you know, there are a huge number of kids and a huge number of families for whom going back to school isn't necessarily good news or something to jump up and down for joy about. We talk about that. We hear from Maddie, we hear from Carlitos, Lisa's son. It's a very good chat. So do head over to Apple Podcasts or Global Player or Spotify to listen to that. As I say, Members Live will be happening tonight. And there was something else I was going to say. What was it? Oh, and next week we're going to be doing a Confessions of a Modern Parent about this very topic, about how do you equip, as parents of daughters and parents of sons, how do you equip your daughters, let's say specifically to begin with, because I'm a father to daughters, how do you equip them with the knowledge and awareness of how to be safe without scaring them or limiting their experience of life, or ruining their concept of what men are or boys are? And how do we help boys better understand? So me and Nadia will be posting something on our Insta stories so that we can get all of your comments. Do contribute. We do read lots of them out. If you want to stay anonymous, you can stay anonymous. But have a lovely Friday, guys. Obviously, stay across the channel. All sorts of stupidity will be emerging at some point. Another vlog will be landing. Obviously, we're doubling down on the Sunday show from here on in. Members Live, as I say, tonight. There might be a surprise home time live, maybe. We could do that or something. And if you fancy a Five Guys snack lesson teaching how to make a Five Guys in under 10 minutes, do head over there. It's an acknowledged fact that some food isn't good for you. But some food's an indulgence, and that's all it is. It's a fake away. Guys, have fun. Have a lovely Friday. Lots of love, guys. Stay safe. Big hug, huge hug, group hug. There's no one here to make it a group hug. Just a hug. All right. Bye.